Welcome to Share the Load, the podcast, brought to you by the DPJ Foundation. This is a space for honest conversations, real stories and shared experiences, shining a light on the challenges we face and reminding each other that none of us have to carry the load alone. In each episode, we'll be talking with people from across our community, exploring life, work, mental health and the realities that shape us, the good, the difficult and everything in between. Before we begin, we want to let you know that some episodes may include sensitive topics, including discussions around mental health and suicide. If at any point you find the content upsetting, please take a moment, pause and look after yourself. If you or someone you know needs support, we encourage you to reach out to a trusted person or a professional organisation. You can also call our 24/7 call line on 0800 587 4262 and you can find further information on our website. This is Share the Load.
Croeso i'r Rhannwch y Baich, y podlediad a ddygwyd I chi gan sefydliad DPJ. Mae hwn yn lle ar gyfer sgyrsiau gonest, straeon go iawn, a phrofiadau ar enir, gan daflu goleini ar yr heriau rydym yn ei hwynebu ac atgoffa'n gilydd nad oes rhaid i'r un ohonom gario'r baich ar ei pennu ein hunain. Ym mhob penod, byddwn nhw'n siarad â phobl o bob cornel o'n cymuned, gan archwilio bywyd, gwaith, iechyd meddwl a realiti sy'n ei llunio. Y da, yr anodd, a phopeth rhyngddynt. Cyn I ni ddechrau, rydym am roi gwybod I chi y gallai rhai penodau gynnwys pynciau sensitif, gan gynnwys trafodaethau ynghylch iechyd meddwl a hunanladdiad. Os byddwch chi ar unrhyw adeg yn teimlo bod y cynnwys yn ofidus, cymerwch eiliad, oedwch, a gofalwch amdanoch eich hun. Os oes angen cefnogaeth arnoch chi, neu rhywun rydych chi'n ei adnabod, rydym yn eich annog I gysylltu â pherson dibynadwy neu sefydliad proffesiynol. Gallwch hefyd ffonio ein llinell alwadau 24 awr y dydd, 7 diwrnod yr wythnos ar 0800 587 42 62 a dod o hyd I ragor o wybodaeth ar ein gwefan. Dyma Rhannwch y Baich.
Right, so episode 1, we're here, our new podcast. We're all a bit apprehensive, I think, is the right way of putting that. So the idea is what we want to do with this episode really, isn't it, is sort of set the scene for DPJ, I suppose, don't we? So we're all kind of from different elements of DPJ and we've all kind of come of it from different times. So Annie, do you want to start off introducing yourself?
So I'm Annie James. I've been a volunteer with DPJ since 2019. I'm a dairy farmer originally, still dairy farmer, and I started with the foundation because Emma actually came to talk to us in Agri Academy,
and that's where I met Kate as well.
Yeah, Kate.
Yeah,
and a few other supporters and people that have got involved over the years came from that Agri Academy group. So we, I was just. To be honest, I've always been floored by that poster that you've got with the tractor driver that you just see the back of, and I've always just looked at that and thought that could be my brother, that could be my husband, that could be my dad, it could be me. That is just my world, that tractor, that picture of that tractor, and that is who I want to support and what I want to help in life. Yeah. So that's why I got involved.
Yeah. And we've kept you ever since.
And you've kept me ever since. Yeah. I haven't been able to get away.
Do you introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Lois Davis. I'm quite a baby to DPJ.
So one of the younger members of the team, for sure.
And I started volunteering last April, so April 2025. Very new to the foundation. There's been a lot of new things that have come in, like we've got the 10 years now, which is amazing, and so much going on. And I started mainly because obviously the DPJs, as growing up, it's been like one of the main agricultural mental health charities, and I've always been very aware of the work you guys have done. But I just thought there was sort of like a gap in like having young people talking about it, because we see, the suicide rates obviously are so high in men and so high in younger men, and you see the news articles all the time, and the new policies and changes that are coming through, and the anxiety that you see in farmers, and it's amazing that these conversations are being had. But I think it's just pushing that people are opening up and just making sure that that support is there. And like Annie said, it could be the person that sat next to you, the person, you know, when you're in YFC, I look around the room and I think how many people in these rooms are struggling or like that are having these like silent battles. I think it's so important to have these sort of resources and things available to people.
Yeah. And then obviously our chief in charge.
Yeah, we know that's not me, that's you, Emma.
Not at all.
Yeah, so I'm Kate Myers and I'm the charity manager of the DPJ Foundation, and I've had the privilege of doing this job for just over 5 years now. But I first became aware of the DPJ Foundation probably not that long after the charity was set up. One of my close friends is from Pembrokeshire, and he was attending a mental health first aid training that Emma was running, which was something I'd never heard of. It was really innovative, it seemed. And then roll forward a few years, Annie and I were both in that Agri Academy group, and Emma just had us all in tears actually, but also really inspired and just set a light under everybody in that room. So so being here now in 2026 and being able to lead this charity is such a massive privilege, and it just seeing where we've been, trying to make sure that we hold on to that as well, because I often say about we're part of Team DPJ, we're part of the DPJ family, and that's really, really important. We're not some big scary organisation with loads of staff. We are a really small staff team, but we've got a massive team of helpers who are there as well, and it's just it's so important that we remember that we are part of the farming community. And for me, you know, I'm from a farming background, and being able to make a real difference to my community is it's worth the world.
Yeah. I think it gives you that kind of sense that you're doing something good within that community, doesn't it?
Absolutely, and it's, you know, it's just it just means that being able to see the tangible difference we make sometimes is a real privilege, but also hearing Lois speak and say about having grown up with DPJ, you know, that's amazing.
It's mad, isn't it?
Fantastic?
Yeah, that's mad. And that is essentially like what it was all set out to do at the very beginning, really. It was just to make sure that we could make a difference to that community. And I'll introduce Dad. So Dad's come and joined us, Richard, come to join us today to talk about a little bit. And what we want to do really is kind of delve into where DPJ has come from and where it started and kind of where we're at now really in kind of preparation for that. So, you know, essentially like what you said, Kate, about that kind of doing something for the community, that is really the crux of where this all started. And after Daniel passed away, it was just that real need to kind of want to do something about it in those early days. Because it was rough, wasn't it? In those first few days, it was really rough. And I think it was rough, obviously, for all of us that were going through it. But it was also really rough for, for me, I kind of think the thing for me in all of that was the kids.
Yeah.
And it was like worrying about their future, wasn't it?
It was, to see them so small.
Yeah, and kind of like, you know, I'm really lucky. My dad's still around. My granddad was still alive at that point, wasn't it? And we've all kind of been really lucky enough to have those relationships. And I think to think about the kids to not have their dad going forward was that was kind of a really difficult thing. They were so small, weren't they?
Yeah.
And Tristan was tiny.
Yeah.
He couldn't even comprehend what was going on. And Mally was that bit older. She was quite funny the way she dealt with it all. Wasn't she?
Yeah. She took it in her stride.
She did, and she was very like pragmatic about it, like she is now. She's like the same as she is as she's 13.
She is, yeah.
She kind of dealt with it all, didn't she? And she was very much like, you know, this is what's happened, and she like everything's going to be okay and whatever else have you. And that was her kind of really initial reaction to it. And for me, it was about making something that was positive for them in all of this, but also my mind just kept going to, oh my God, how many other kids are out there like this who've lost their mums or dads, you know, to this. And then the more you start talking about it, you realise kind of how bad this situation is within our community around suicide. And actually, it was that whole thing of, I've got to do something about this. And I know people probably look at me now and think, oh, she just does everything. And like, I constantly get told how busy I am and whatever. It's not all, well, has it always been that way? Have I always been busy?
Yeah.
Yeah. Is it why you're bald, isn't it? But it's like, it's sort of, it was just kind of being able to do something, I suppose, that they would be proud of.
And I think looking at the children, it's, you know, for the time that I've known them, which hasn't been a massive amount of time, but I've seen them grow into the young people that they're becoming is just it's brilliant.
Yeah.
And you know, look at Mali now and how desperately proud she is of DPJ
Yeah.
and how the contribution that she makes, and Tristan and even little Erin,
Yeah.
in terms of that when we look at Pembrokeshire Show and the whole family being there.
And you
massive.
said about that word family, and I think that's kind of been like the crux of this from the beginning as well. Has been like that family element. I think has been really important. You know, from like day dot, like, you know, very immediately. I was really lucky in the sense that people gathered. It was very much like I was living in a really tiny house in Clarkson Road at that point, and wasn't it? It was like small, and like everyone descended, and it was just I had this protective bubble put around me like immediately by family and friends that are family essentially, and I was so kind of well supported with that. And like, you know, I remember sort of literally within, I think that morning after the first night, I woke up and I was like, I'm gonna have to do something about this. You know, there's got to be something positive. And that kind of bubble around me kind of drove that forward. Like, I know that it's tricky because it's always been, oh, you know, like Emma's done this and stuff like that, and it's not ever just been me. It's always been so much bigger than that. You know, the trustees in the first instance, because all right, I probably shouldn't say this like that, but we didn't have a clue what we were doing. Like, it was like we were like, we're going to share for charity, and it's like, right, what do we do? And then it was like my auntie was one of them, my cousin was the other. You know, it was a real like family affair, wasn't it? And like we'd go to meetings and we'd all be together there, and you know, literally the first ever thing I did where I went out because I knew I wanted to go and speak about it. Like, Dad was with me, like by my side, and during the Glen, weren't we?
Yeah.
And you stood by the bar watching as we did that, and then ever since that day it's been exactly the same thing. And I think, you know, there's always been that those people that are there from the beginning are still there, and that family element of it is so important. You know, not just kind of my immediate family, but we've also brought in other families, you know, and it's really, really lovely to have kind of those connections. People's kids get involved, and mums and dads, and you know, we've recently been to like the awards, and Sian's mum came with us, and that, you know, things like that are just like lush. It just brings in that like that wider thing around it, and that importance of creating that family to kind of pull you forward. I think it was massive.
I think the saying, like, it takes a village. Like,
Absolutely.
that's the, and I think, but it's lovely, like, to see that, you know, the rural communities, a lot of people always talk about, like, how isolated people are, but in the same sense, like, there is no community like a farming community. Like, the amount of people, it's the same, you know, with us. I know we can phone about 10 people and they can be on our yard within 5 minutes to help. Like, and it's just such a special, like, environment to be in, and to be able to, like you say, build like such a family. It's amazing.
Do you think you know, we were contracting you, weren't we, when I was little? Like, you've obviously seen it go from where there was like a lot of people around, obviously, like, and then to like nothing.
Yeah.
What was that like? Was that difficult for you?
Quite frightening.
Yeah. In what way?
Well, from seeing people every day and out and about and all of a sudden you're on the farm on your own.
Yeah, because we went from that to milking, didn't we?
Yeah. We milk cows then, and you know, you will see the tanker driver, and perhaps that's all you see all day.
Yeah, that's why the tanker driver used to stay around for half an hour chatting, because you keep on talking the whole time you're there.
Somebody to talk to.
Yeah. And that's important.
It is, yeah. Somebody
Like,
talk
people
to.
people don't realise how isolating it is, and how little people you see. Like you say, like milking, you know, you can be in the parlour by yourself 5-6 hours a day, and that, you know, that's all you see are you and the cows. That's it.
That's it.
And the same with, like, say, contractors. Yeah, there's, you know, 6 or 7 of you probably out on the silage, but you're in that cab by yourself.
But it was a lot different though, wasn't it, years ago? You know, I got like my fondest memory as a child was being able to kind of like I'd go with my nan, and I'd either be in the back of the cab with my mum in that tractor there actually, sat in the back, or I'd be with my nan getting all the sandwiches and stuff ready with it, and then we'd go down the field and everyone would stop for like tea, and then they'd stop for lunch, and then we'd all have supper together around the table, and it was like a real kind of like occasion, wasn't it?
You're the most travelled child in the
I know, I used to go in the back of the rake everywhere, and then going looking for parts everywhere as well. But I think that Dan grew up with that. You know, when Dan was a lot younger, he really spoke fondly, didn't he, about those times? He got to experience that element of that. So when it kind of the shift started changing a little bit, when contractors were kind of busy and get moving, he struggled with that a lot, didn't he?
It's very difficult. It is.
Yeah, and he was travelling miles, wasn't he? He was like up sometimes like further than Llangrannog, going on the silage and not getting back until 4 o'clock in the morning, and like those kind of like long days on his own were like really difficult, and like not the fun had gone out of it, but the pressure was so much more. And then I think like he you know, I remember him saying, like, I just don't know how much longer I can kind of do this for, because he found that like a really like high pressure thing, which is why he changed his job towards the end and started going out with his digger and doing like contracting with his digger. But then that in itself was a really tricky move for him, because he was even more isolated, really, wasn't he? And then the kind of pressures that went along with that as well, about moving this giant.
Years ago, people seem to have time for everything. The last good many years, there is no time. Pressures on farming and on people as well.
And I think having taken away a lot of those opportunities, so, you know, you talked about contract, and I can remember haymaking when I was a kid, and that was a day when everybody from the village would come because we were making small bales, and you know, you've got that labour, so the big event of feeding everybody, and shearing would have been the same, you know, that the sort of shared labour from different farms, and that doesn't happen anymore. It's all contractor based, and it's how quickly can we get people in and get them out to get to the next place.
Our shearing isn't fast, by the way. Where we shear, it takes like it's him and it's me shearing, him giving moral support on the side, and going, "You're doing really well." 10 hours later, 5 sheep done.
I can talk the talk.
Yeah, and I just sitting there dying.
Yeah.
You're still a family business, but definitely not. But you're right. Yeah.
But then it's enjoyment and together and
But a lot of people don't have that.
Yeah, because if you're working on your own, like you were saying, you know, you're just focused on that, and there's a lot of time in your head then, isn't there? A lot of time to think, a lot of time to worry if you're worrying about things. Whereas if you get those opportunities just to have a laugh, just to, you know, just to
you're right.
to banter or gossip even.
Well, this is like the idea, really. You know, you're saying about the milk tanker driver and things like that, and you still bump into these people years later, and you know they know each other really well because they had those conversations, and that was really like the crux of that training that you mentioned earlier, where that came from. Because I just remember thinking, you know, these people need to understand what they're looking for. If they come across people like that, they are those kind of lifelines, aren't they? And I remember kind of deciding I wanted to do this training, but not really kind of understanding how to do it. Like, obviously I'm a teacher, I could teach, but this was like totally new to me, and it kind of big learning curve really, because Dan passed away in July, and the first training happened in October, so it was really like a quick kind of turnaround with that. And I remember finding someone who was this mental health trainer and stuff, and it was brilliant, and it was really good. And the weirdest thing ever, because we had Radio 4 there, and I remember just thinking, this is a bit weird, like, where's this going with this? I'd never had anything to do with anything like that. And so we did this training, and it was really, really well received. But there was something that happened prior to that training that really nearly like broke me in a certain sense and stopped me from kind of ever going any further. I was going around, and it sounds ridiculous now, but I actually physically went around with letters, and I went around to businesses and said, oh God, I'm going to get a bit thing, but I was like, my name's Emma. My husband's killed himself, and I'm trying to do something, and I went around saying I want to do this training, and I want to be able to get people to spot signs. And everyone was really good, really receptive, and you know, I know a lot of people in the area anyway, and everyone was really great. And then I came across this woman, I won't say what business she's in because she might still work there, and she said, "Why are you bothering?" And I said, "Well, I'm bothering because, like, you know, but this needs to change." And it was a vet, and she said, "What's the point?" She said, "They're not going to listen anyway. Farmers won't listen to what you've got to say." And I walked out of there. My mum was amazing. My mum came everywhere with me, and we went off in the car, sort of around all these businesses and stuff with my little letter. And I got in the car and I said, "I can't do this, Mum." I was like, you know, I can't come with people coming back at me like that after everything that I'd been through. And I remember my mum saying to me, "You've got to do it to spite her, because like there are people like that, and that's what's making people like Dan, this is why it's happening, because of those attitudes." And she's like, "You know, you've got to try now, and you can do something to change it." And I remember thinking, do you know what? And I've never, ever forgotten that woman. And I remember thinking to her, you know, there's been massive highs over the last 10 years, but there's been real lows as well. And that just, it nearly stopped everything from happening, because I was so disheartened by her attitude towards it. So when I put on this training and we had like all of these people come, I was like, yeah, this was like the right reason. And I think that is kind of like a big thing for me in all this. There's always be one or two people who are telling you, "Oh, you can't do that," or "You shouldn't do that." But actually there's a massive amount of people who need this, and like the bigger reason behind it was really important. And I think that first training session for me was huge, and it taught me a couple of things, in the sense that the people went away from there and they were like, "Oh my God, you know, this is really important. Like, I'm so glad we knew this." And obviously, you know, like Delmy went back and told you and things like that. And, you know, people still talk about that because it was just like you said, it wasn't happening. what it made me realise is actually this training was good, but I can make it better. And that kind of gave me the spur that I needed then to try and kind of pursue that and get that better. And I think for me to see that is still happening now is pretty incredible. You know, as a teacher, I get lots of kind of things that happen in my career where I'm, you know, little wins and highs. I'm like, oh, you know, I'm doing all right, I could do that. But for me, that kind of legacy that training is still happening all these years down the line is incredibly special. And the amount of people who've kind of been able to have that and know that they can kind of, you know, have those discussions. And I think, you know, maybe say if I'm wrong, maybe I'm right in saying this, but I know you've not ever like been to the training formally, but you've heard me talk loads of times where I said that, and people have conversations with you, don't they?
Yeah.
And do you think that's helped you to know kind of how to speak to them?
Yeah, it helps. It's brilliant because people don't know.
No. And for me, it was that ability to be able to know then that we've got something else to give to them. It's not just training, off you go, you can try ring these people, you can try ring these people. It was like, I can give you this training, and if you need that help, this is what I'm going to do now so that those people can go and get that help.
It's so important. And, you know, the training is something that we've trained an awful lot of people by now. You know, I think it's maybe over 6,000, something along those lines. There's a lot of people that have been trained in some shape or form, whether that's the full training or the smaller sessions that various people have done. But when you hear somebody say, oh, I remember Emma coming and talking to me, or you came before and did this session, and I've then spoken to somebody else because I was really worried about them, but I remembered what you said about this, that and the other, maybe about the stress bucket, and I showed them the video you showed. And that really, you know, it reinforces that people are listening, they are making a difference. So, you know, bugger off to that woman who was, you know, that vet, and you must tell me after who she is.
Do you know what the weird thing is? I probably couldn't tell you what I've got a vague recollection of what she looked like, and I just remember going in there. And I was like I said, it's such positive feedback from everyone there. I was like, oh, this is, you know, really needed, you know, and every single person you meet, no matter where you are, if they're in agriculture, they'll always say, yeah, I know somebody who's killed themselves. So I know someone, no matter who you meet, there's always that connection, no matter what. So to kind of come across this woman who was like, don't know why bothering, they're not going to listen to you anyway. And I was like, oh my God. And I just remember thinking to myself, if that's the attitude you've got with me, who's literally lost my husband within a matter of weeks, and I'm standing here in front of you, completely vulnerable, what the hell attitude is she going to have with the people that she's dealing with on a daily basis? And this is like, I know it's like that old age thing of, you know, you never know what anyone's going through and things like that. It's really true. Like you don't know what people are going through, and like you should always kind of bear that in mind when you're having these conversations with people. Like you don't know what
the impact the words can have. You know, that we use them really. You know, we're doing a podcast, we're talking, and we sometimes forget that the things that we say can have such a huge impact on people. That they can, you know, they can hit them if they're particularly vulnerable at that particular time. It can just get under somebody's skin, and can, you know, if you're not in a position to be able to manage that, and you know, frankly, we all have days where we can't manage it. I strongly believe we do. I know certainly I do. Yeah, definitely. Where, you know, something that I'd normally take in my stride will just get in there and just keep going round and round and round, and it'll get into, you know, into your heart. Yeah. But you know, we've all got a job to do, really, haven't we, in trying to be a little bit more kind, I suppose.
But I think the training, more than anything, gives people the tools to try and break down that fear within them. Often people don't want to ask, are you okay? Because they don't necessarily know if they're able to deal with the answer that they're going to have back. But giving farmers, giving people that work with farmers the tools to actually be able to have those conversations. They don't need to fix everything. They can't fix everything. But to be able to just have the tools in the box to know, okay, I can start the conversation and I can help that person find help. Yeah. That's just massive. And
I think people quite like being told what to do. Yeah. In that sense, it's like, you know, rather than being like, oh, well, you could do this, you could do that. It's like, you know, our training is very much, you know, like, this is what you need to do. This is like, you know, this is the ways of doing it. It's very practical. It's very kind of like, you know, it's there, the information is there, and that's it. And I think people do like being told, do this, because otherwise you get a bit lost, don't you? You know, it's a bit like, I remember feeling like that. I remember thinking, you know, I knew that something wasn't right, but being able to kind of have that conversation was just a no-go for me, because I didn't want to say the wrong thing, I didn't want to make it worse, so it was like really difficult to kind of know that, and I just thought I was doing the right thing. But if someone had said to me, do this, do that, you know, it's like, and I use it really frequently kind of in my personal life, but also in my professional life as well, to be able to kind of say, no, I've got that confidence now to ask those questions and be able to kind of use that. And that's with the children I teach and the adults I come across and things like that, you know, is those skills are so vital, but unless someone tells you, you don't know what to do. It's, you know, it's not something that is natural, is it?
And it's too easy. The alternative is too easy to do nothing, isn't it?
Yeah,
to
absolutely.
just think, oh, somebody else will do something, or I don't need to think about this. And the consequences of doing that are, you know, potentially huge. So
Massive,
it's you know, back in the early days, I know Emma and I have travelled to various places together in the car. And,
terrifying experience. Okay.
Was I driving over you? It is. We're both a little bit heavy on the accelerator. But back in the early days, Emma said that my dad used to come everywhere with me. Where's the most interesting place that you ended up with Emma?
How long have you got? I think we went up to Llandudid Wells that time. And there was a lot of these people were there from animal health things and all.
Oh,
remember?
That big, the APHA conference, was it?
Yeah, and they were all
in that big room?
Yeah, in the big room.
That was like the first thing I'd ever done, wasn't it?
Yeah, and there was a retired vet there from Glarberson Road, and he was there, and he couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
Couldn't believe he was waking up in Cardiff then. And he said it's amazing to hear, and everybody was the same, and they just, people were afraid to talk about it.
The amount of times we've been places, haven't we? And then I've like spoken, and then people will be like put their hands up. And do you remember? I know you said about that first time we went when we were in the Glen, weren't we? And do you remember there was like 3 people who stood up after her, and I remember this one woman who was like, I've never spoken about this, she said, but this has happened in my family. We've always said that he had like heart problems or something, wasn't it? And they kind of like just wouldn't ever just open up about the fact it had happened. And I think we could see kind of straight away, couldn't we, like the impact that was happening. And for me, you know, I still get incredibly emotional talking about it now, but the benefit of having those conversations was massive, and you could see that really, really quickly, and it's like a ripple effect. It just.
But people were afraid to talk about it.
They were really afraid.
It was like, oh no, you can't talk about that.
But then they were almost kind of like
queuing
up to talk about it afterwards. It was the strangest thing. It was like everyone would sit there silent. And then it was like all of a sudden they'd be like queuing up, and they were like, no, this happened to me and that's happened to me, and like wanting to open up about their own personal experiences. It was a bit. It was. We went. Do you remember we went to a Nant Gwrthen one night? We were invited up there, weren't we? He thought I was driving him off the edge of a cliff. He was like, "You've got this wrong. You've got this wrong," and I was like, "Are you sure I'm not?" And we went down this massive road. We're like, "Oh my god." And then that was another Agri Academy one, and those have been like, well, you know, that your Agri Academy, let's be fair, that was a pretty special year. That's where I met you, Kate, and I met you, Annie. I met Joe, who's gone on to be our counsellor, and then Olwyn, who was leading the Agri Academy, has gone forward and is now one of our like amazing volunteers in our lorries. That was like quite a special, and there's loads of other people that we've kept in touch with, which is amazing. But we went there that night, didn't we? And that was good fun. We ended the night testing sheep vodka or something, so we've had some interesting experiences
we have,
between all of it. It's been, and that's the thing, like we sat down here just now, didn't we? I mean, like if you would have told us like 10 years ago that we'd be sat in this shed, you know, the shed at that point that was probably full of TB calves, wasn't it? Like this was literally rammed with TB calves years ago when we were right in the sort of depths of it, and sat here recording a podcast about everything that's happened over the 10 years. Like
it's unbelievable.
It's been mad, isn't it? We went up to the Pride of Britain Awards as well, and like that was ridiculous, wasn't it? It was like we were in London. We looked so weird in London. We like didn't fit in at all. And then we were like walking around, and we were sat on a table with the Saturdays.
Oh wow!
And then my dad and my brother were like, "Oh, I need to know where to look." And then my brother was afraid to look anywhere. Liam was just pretending like he was cool as a cucumber. Or was oogling Una from the Saturdays. And it was just the weirdest thing. And it was like we were on the train on the way back. We were like, "That is mad. Like that's mad." And like the things that it has kind of presented to us are just unbelievable, and it never was the intention ever. The only kind of like intention ever was it was only ever going to be something in Pembrokeshire. I remember, you know, I sort of only ever wanted it to be something that we do that training initially. And then the idea is after that training, that was it. It was never going to really be kind of anything more than that. But what became really clear in the lead up to that training was there was so much more need for it. And then it started to become something that was so much bigger than that, which is where kind of like the rest of the ideas came from.
Yeah, because I think when you spoke to Annie and myself in our Agri Academy, it was back in 2018, I think, was it Annie?
Yeah.
Yeah, in the autumn of 2018. And at that point, you'd launched the Share the Load helpline, but it was still relatively new. And you'd sort of said, I remember you saying in our in the session that it was a Pembrokeshire project, but also you were getting inquiries from Ceredigion and Carmarthenshire, and my ears pricked up because you said, and we've even got somebody from the Neath area, which is where I'm from. So, it was always meant to be small, but now we support people right across the whole of Wales. I think at the end of 2025, I think it was over 1,300 unique people have accessed our Share the Load service with counselling. But we know that so many more people will just text us or phone us to have that chat, that offload. And that, that's massive. I don't know who's accessing our service. I know that nobody around this table does either. But it always strikes me. I've been in market before now, dressed in my mart clothes, and I've been giving out. It was when I first started working for DPJ. I think I was giving out our Share the Load cards to people and saying, you might not need it, just put it in your pocket and take it away. And the farmer said to me, okay, Dad, I don't need that. That's okay. I've already used your service.
Oh, wow.
I've had counselling with and named a counsellor. And that floored me because I just thought, well, that's brilliant. Yeah. That's brilliant. Somebody here from Mid Wales, it was, the reach and the impact that makes is just it's phenomenal.
It's really unbelievable. I think I still sort of sometimes can't really comprehend how far it's gone in that sense, because it really only was ever supposed to be Pembrokeshire. And then I remember sort of when it started to get a bit busier, talking to the trustees and things and being right, I got a 5-year plan, and this was in my head, this is it's stupid because it was this 5-year plan of I went to the trustees with the Share the Load idea, and I remember it now, I've still actually got the piece of paper handwritten. People phone up a free phone number, has to be 24 hours a day, not good enough being 9 till 5. And I wrote this down, and they speak to a human being, and I remember writing that really specifically. Human being fills in a form, we give them counselling straight away. And I was I wrote this all down really simply, and I was guys, this is what I want to do. I want to do this counselling service. And they were okay, and they were sent me away and sort of told me to do a bit more research. And that is still the case, and what's really special is that we've been able to kind of continue providing that really quick support, and that's what's really important to me, is being able to kind of provide people with immediate support. I know that when in the sort of midst of everything, I think it probably got to just after that training session, and everyone was probably a little bit concerned that I'd thrown myself into everything and wasn't really doing grieving was the kind of thing, wasn't it? Everyone was a little bit I think they were worried about me probably.
Yeah.
Because I was a little bit gung-ho with everything. But so I went to the doctors, and then I was sent kind of given this information, rang up this counselling service, and basically it was it was an answer message, left a message on answer phone, and they rang me back about a week later, and they said, oh yeah, that's fine, you're on the waiting list, we'll see you 6 to 9 months. And I was just horrified, and I remember thinking, this isn't good enough, which is when I started writing those things down. I was no answer machines. I was human being, really important. I was straight away, really important. And it was almost really simplistic, and I do quite often say this, if I can come up with these ideas, anybody can, because this is not my forte. I'm a primary school teacher and whatever, but that's it's not my kind of forte. But it is a really simplistic service, but it works really well. And then when we started doing the service in Pembrokeshire, before I'd even launched it, we had phone calls coming through already that were kind of from people who knew then heard that what we were doing and wanted to kind of access this service because they were in desperate need and didn't know where else to go. And then all of a sudden we kind of had more people come in, and then it kind of built, and then I was right, they were when are you going to go across the border and things like that, and that's when those conversations started happening. I was right, 5-year plan, we'll get to Carmarthen and Ceredigion. Literally within 18 months we were covering the whole of Wales. It was ridiculous, it went so quick, but it just showed that need was there. And we were so I will never ever get over the amount of support that people showed us at that time, financially. The donations that came in were unbelievable for us to be able to do that, to be, and the kind of the grants and things like that. that, to be able to kind of set these services off, it was mind-blowing, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And like every check that came through the post, we were like, oh my God, this is amazing. And we're still like that to this day, aren't we? We're completely blown away. And like, I see things and like people who do things for DPJ and raise money for DPJ, and like, for a long time it was in my head, it was like, people are only going to do this if they know me, because it's like that personal connection. And then when you see people who you don't know who are doing these things, I'm like, oh my God, it's like, I can't comprehend the kind of size of it almost sometimes. And when you go places, I love, my favourite hobby is driving through North Wales and spotting bail stickers. Because I'm like, oh my God, they know about DPJ, this is amazing. And it's like, it is just so special that it is, but it is that because of the people around it, and the need for it has like driven it so much, isn't it? And it's just incredible. And like, you had people like ringing you up that know you, and you know, they knew about it and heard about it, and it's just amazing.
I think at the time when it happened and all, people say, I had to sit back, go backwards, get on with it.
Yeah, is that what I said? I'm quite sensible, aren't I?
my dad always says, and like, we lost my brother, and he's always says like, the world keeps spinning.
Absolutely.
And like, that's the one thing that, and we as a family, like, I'm very lucky, we're so open, and I always think like, the world does keep spinning.
It does.
And like, you either go with it and you run with it, or you sit and
you are
behind.
so right.
Yes,
and
true.
it's the same, like, I know I'm really lucky. I can go to my family and speak to anything. But I like thought in my mind is, there's someone out there who doesn't have anyone.
Yeah.
And this sort of, like you say, the amount of people that have come to you and like the support, it's that you know that there are people out there that need this sort of thing, and it's so vital that it's there for people.
It is, and you're exactly spot on. And you know, like I said, I'm in the same. And you know, like I said, I was surrounded, and I was really lucky at that point to have all those people around me. But there are so many people that don't, and to be able to provide something that is there for people, should they not have anybody to talk to, or it's really difficult talking to people that you know as well. Like, that's why I started having counselling, because don't get me wrong, like I could open up to my family and things like that, but there were certain things that happened, you know, within my relationship that I just couldn't verbalise to people because I didn't want to upset anybody and I didn't want to hurt anybody. So to have that counselling was massive for me, because I was able to kind of open up to this woman about everything that was going on, and she just sat and listened and took it in. And you know, I take it back like a little bit to my nan. And every time I go and see my nan at that time, and still now to this day a little bit, she'd be like, you know, are you okay? And then she'd just go, oh gosh, and, you know, and she'd start crying every time she looked at me. And I just didn't want people to cry. You know, I just was like, I didn't want people to feel sad for me. And obviously people did, and I was really grateful for that support, but I didn't want them to make people feel sad. So the ability to kind of offload that on a counsellor for me was massive, you know, it was huge. So that's for me why setting up that counselling service was so important, to be able to give people that lifeline to just talk to somebody who's not connected, and talk about, you know, those difficult things that are really tricky to open up to your family about sometimes, you know. And it was...
because you're also thinking about other people and how that might change their perception of you, aren't you? Because, you know, there's things that you've got a relationship, however strong a relationship is, it is that relationship, and you don't want it to be impacted by something you might say or something you might think.
And in my position, it was also what other people's perception of Dan was as well. You know, I think that, you know, he'd been through absolute hell, and I was really concerned that there was my own feelings in this, and it was kind of this juggling act between, I've got my own feelings, but he's had so much worse, and then it was that kind of guilt of being able to express my feelings about it, and my anger and my hurt, because I was angry and I was upset, but I was also sad, and then I was like annoyed, and all these different things that were kind of going on a day-to-day basis. And just the first instance, it was just like taking it, well, initially it was just hour by hour, wasn't it? We couldn't think any further ahead than an hour ahead, and then it went to, you could plan things for the next day then and things, but you know, the counselling helped with that. And eventually with the counselling, which I found just brilliant, it was like, it went from, well, initially I think it was every 2 days, and then it went to every week, and then every 2 weeks, and then every month, and then I was a bit like, I don't want to stop, this is really good. And then it did, but it slowly kind of like petered out to a point where I built up that strength to carry on again, which was really, really important for me to kind of, and for me, it was just the ability to be able to spread that to other people is, you know, incredible. And like I said, we don't know who accesses the counselling service. We get a certain amount of people will say to us, you know, that we've done that and whatever. And it's amazing to hear the impact that it has had on people, and overwhelming.
No,
really overwhelming at times to kind of know that this little thing that sort of started on around my kitchen table because I didn't know what to do with the funeral money. That kind of little conversation we had there has turned into something that was so much bigger. And the best part is like when we were discussing names, we had to have a name for it to be able to say. And Dan wrote DPJ on like everything. So I was like, oh, do you know what? We'll call it the DPJ Foundation because we wanted to set up a bank account. But it's like, we'll just change it. And then like here we are 10 years later with like our mugs and it's still got it on with like Dan's logo, which to anybody it probably is a bit random because it is obviously, you know, a digger and it's got DPJ, but this was the logo that he designed for his business that he didn't ever get the ability to kind of take to where he wanted to. And, you know, it's kind of been able to do that and use that in his name, really.
And I think, like, especially for me, when I'm out and people are like, oh, what's it stand for? I think it's like so personal and so raw to be like, it's an actual story, it's a person. And like the work you've done is absolutely amazing. Like I know you say like you hear it all the time, but it's absolutely amazing. The amount of conversations I've had with people that are like, oh, it's real. And people then like start talking about things that have happened to them because they're like, oh, this is based on something, you know, it's not a big charity that's just, like you say, it's personal and it's so important to have that, like that initial connection with people that they realise like they're not by themselves, so there's like other people going through it.
Do you think that's like part of why you guys got involved, is because it was that kind of, it's not just like something for the sake of it, because there is, you know, I mean, we've all got kind of personal connections on our own stories for kind of reasons to be involved in it, but I think I personally always felt that, you know, I know with you guys involved, because we're real people who've got real stories, there's always been that kind of connection with it, and that people kind of are more open.
For me, it was very much hearing you speak. And your ideas, they were so obvious. You might not remember, but you told us about this really crazy idea to have this livestock lorry that goes into markets doing physical health checks, and as a way of getting people to talk about their mental health. And I just thought, so obvious. Why isn't anybody doing this? This is brilliant. What a fantastic idea. And you know, it's amazing that we now have not one, but we've about to have our second lorry. And it was that sort of, well, this is what it is. This is what we're going to do. We're going to do it. We've done it. It's that link between let's make a difference, and you were clearly making a difference. And for me, that was really, really important, because it's a way to make that difference for our community. I don't know about the others.
Yeah, I think for me it's always been the simplicity of it, the rawness, like Lois talks about in terms of the actual story, the story that can hit really hard if you know somebody else or you yourself has been affected by that deep bereavement. But I think also the simplicity of it, like you say, it's not rocket science. Somebody needs help, somebody phones up for help, they get help. Like that is what we do, and it's not fluffy around the edges. It's raw and it's real, because that's what farming is like. That's what life is like. And as farmers, we deal with life and death on a daily basis, and you can go from being the best in the world to being rock bottom very easily. And what you need then is action. You don't need a 6 months waiting list. You don't need an answer phone. What you need is somebody there to hold you up and somebody there to help you. And that's what the DPJ has always done and continues to do through like the postvention work we do and stuff like that. That's what we need to do. And without us doing that, it really is quite a scary world.
I think it's quite reflective of like the community that we're part of. It's simple, it's practical, it's there, it's immediate.
It just happens straight away.
It just happens.
It's like, there's a problem, we solve it.
And I think that's how I grew up, essentially, wasn't it? Like, you know, we grew up in a thing where this happens, right, we deal with it. We can't sit around the table and discuss the fact this happened for 5 hours and you know, and think about it and then make a policy and then write it down and then email someone about it and get it checked over and then do that. You know, it doesn't work like that. Like, it is, right, this has happened, let's go, let's sort it, let's do it immediately. And I'm quite like practical in that sense, probably because of my upbringing, I would imagine, and just getting on with it. You know, I grew up around many strong people who would do the same. My nan, my mum, my granddad, my dad, you know, they're all people who've throughout my entire life have just got on with it. And, you know, that at that point in time was just very reflective of kind of my attitude towards it. And everyone grieves differently. I'm really respectful of the fact that people grieve in different ways, and people may agree with the way I did it and may disagree with the way I grieved and how I went about it and things, but everyone's got to do it in their own way that suits them at that point in time in their life. And you know, when you know who goes to say when there's another loss I deal with it differently and things like that. But you know, having that kind of practical approach to the charity was really, really important to me, but also that I was only having this discussion last night with somebody actually about the kind of simplicity of our team as well, in the sense that, you know, it was always really conscious to me that, you know, I remember, like I said, when every check came in, wasn't it, we were like, oh my God, this is amazing, you know, and it was so exciting that people just even wanted to donate money. And I was like really conscious and always incredibly conscious about how that money was spent, and that it was spent in ways that were kind of that were for the community, that were practical, that wasn't wasting anybody's money and things like that. And I think I really pride ourselves as an organisation for how we do that. You know, we've got very small staff team that work incredibly hard and are great at their jobs, and we have got an incredible volunteer team who are so adaptive and brilliant in what they do. And the mix of all of that pulled together means that we've got an organisation that's a national organisation running on a team of 4.5 essentially. You know, it's ridiculous when you put it like that, isn't it? But I'm really proud of us for holding on to that. You know, 10 years down the line, those values are still really strong.
It's really important, because I think the same as you, Emma. You know, it's every penny that we spend, and people I think sometimes think I'm a bit tight about not spending on this or that, but every penny has been hard earned. Somebody has done a fundraiser, or they've donated. I remember we had some money, I think it was about £15 a couple of years ago, come in from one of the pupils who were at your school, and they'd had a cake sale, I think it was, or they did a fundraiser anyway, and they'd raised that money for us. And for me that was just massive. It's because huge. It was a lot of money for them. So you know, that's really, really important that we respect every penny that comes in.
Absolutely.
And every donation, however big or small. And we do our best to with what we've got. Sometimes that means that we take a little bit longer to do some things than we would like, but it's really, really important.
And it's like the lorry, you know, the lorry was something that, like, you know, you mentioned I started talking to you back that in like 2018, and that I really wanted to get off the line, but I was also really conscious, you know, even back then the costs were huge. You know, that was before COVID, when everything kind of doubled and whatever. But, you know, I remember thinking at the time, like, this is something I really want to do, but I'm also, you know, really conscious of the fact that there is better places to spend the money at this point in time. So we held out for it, and thankfully, you know, you applied for grants, and that's why you came in, because I am rubbish at that sort of thing. I was like, oh, I need help. So, like, you know, fair play, and, like, you know, to have you guys come in, because it's weird to think that for many a time it was just me. That's really weird, because it was just a time that seems so far away now, which is mad. But I really enjoyed my time, kind of, you know, obviously it was voluntary, and then I did a short stint then, kind of, because we needed somebody there. But I'm a teacher. I am not. I couldn't, you know, you are incredible at your job, and we would be absolutely lost without you. So it's we're very, very lucky to have the staff team that we do. We really, really are, because it wouldn't be, and the volunteers, essentially. I will never get over how lucky we are. And, like, even just sitting here today, which is really weird, because Annie, like, I've obviously known you for years now, and it's weird to think that a huge amount of my friends and the people that I'm really close with are people I've met through DPJ. And it's really special, because it's something that I don't know, I found myself quite isolated before Dan passed away. I think it's fair to say. I was incredibly isolated. It was tricky times, really, really tricky times for quite a few years. And it was very much me and the kids. I had my friends that, you know, were my close friends, but I didn't have a wider friendship group. And sometimes I feel like I know everyone in Wales, because, like, wherever I go, like, I bump into people, and I love the fact that I can go to, like, the Royal Welsh, and I bump into people I know, and that I will never not be so grateful for that, and, like, what it's brought me, in the sense of, like, the people it's brought to me, and the friendships and things that it has brought to the table has been incredible. And it wouldn't ever be kind of what it was without that. You know, it's been an amazing experience to be able to kind of bring people together and get to know people like that much better. And so
absolutely, I think the same, really, in terms of, obviously my position is different, but some really close friends of mine now, I would say, are people I've met through the charity. and it's it's brilliant. It's great to have that network right across the country. And whilst you might feel like you know most people in Wales, I think everybody in Wales knows you.
I get like this is hilarious, but my friends always wind me up about this because they reckon like wherever you go, like someone's like, oh, there's Emma, and I'm like, that's ridiculous. Like no one knows who I am. I'm like very incognito, and we were somewhere up in the middle of Wales, and somebody comes up and like, I saw you on Country File. And I was like, oh my god, this is so funny. And like my friends are like, who are you? Who are you anymore? And it just blows my mind, like the experiences we've had over the last 10 years have been incredible. And I think to be able to kind of provide something out of that my children are able to kind of, you know, be part of, and there's been certain things that they've got to go to, and I've been able to kind of, you know, as they've got older, get them involved with. And Mally, you know, now enjoys very much enjoying her evening jaunts out to various awards ceremonies, and Mally is taking it all in her stride. And it's just really special to be able to have something so positive.
But it helped them as well.
Massively. I will never ever forget the day that Tristan and I were building the duck shed. He got some ducks, didn't he? And we were building the duck shed, putting it together, and you know he likes to ask questions. He's like his dad. He's a very deep little soul, and asking lots of questions. And then how did he die, and how did it happen? And he wants to know. And I've always tried to be really honest with the kids, because I don't ever want them kind of coming up with any other ideas themselves, and I want them to know that I was always honest with them about everything. And so we had that conversation. And it was really difficult trying to explain to him about how someone would choose to end their own life. You know, I can't still really understand it myself, if I'm completely honest, but trying to explain that to a then 7-year-old was really, really difficult. And we started talking about, like, that's why I started DPJ, and that's why I've done this, and this is why I've done that. And everything's got a reason, you know, there's a reason behind everything that we do. And he just went, oh, do you know what? I just wish Daddy would have been able to ring DPJ. And he was like... For me, that was like, oh God, and it's so difficult to kind of expect him to kind of understand that, but he now understands that there is support out there, isn't there, should you need it, and he knows that he can have those discussions, and to be able to provide that kind of open platform is massive. And you know, the children's books and things like that, having them part of that, isn't it, is huge. And I just hope that, you know, I didn't ever imagine we get to 10 years, so it's really difficult to think about any further ahead. But when they're that much older, you know, Mally in 10 years' time will be in her 20s, and Tristan will be just hitting 20. And I just hope that they've still got those skills and that understanding and those tools that we are providing now. We will continue to do that going forward, so that they'll always know that there is ways out. Yeah. There is another option, and there is somewhere else that we can go. You know, there is life out there to be lived, and that's what my kind of focus is trying to kind of encourage them to understand that life is there for living, and pushing yourself out of your comfort zone and doing things. And I make him do all sorts of random things, like.
But it's nice to see then, like, the youngsters taking interest in it.
Yeah.
Fathers Club.
Yeah.
And like you know, in YFC, there's the amount of times that, you know, I've had little conversations here and there, and people are like, yeah, that saved my life. Like, you know, that conversation saved my life, or like, this saved my life. And like, you know, you're sat and you think you're young, and like everyone's loving life, and there's everything going on, and there's just, you know, that there's people out there. And I remember I was speaking, like you just said, that Tristan said about why didn't Daddy have it. And I remember speaking when you spoke. It was in Royal Welsh last year, and I remember being sat at the table, and you said that, and I was like, how many people over the years that would have the same thought? And it's like so important now that when, you know, we're out in the community, and I even see in the calendar, like, I've obviously, like I said, I've grown up knowing about the DPJ, but when you see the calendar of the events that we have, and you think, the amount of people that you're reaching, and, you know, having those conversations, the amount of people that come up to you in events, and they're like, oh, I know so-and-so that did this, and so-and-so that did this, and you see, like, the money coming in and stuff, and you see the impact it's having, but it's still, like we say, that the same values and the same concept is still there. That is so important, and it's so, it's vital.
I think we've held on to that really well.
Yeah.
I'm like really proud of us for that. And I think, I don't know how we've managed to do it, but like every single person that involved has got those values and has got that exact same train of thought, haven't they, about kind of what we want to achieve and what we want to do. And that's really special to have that community of people who are so interested and to be able to spread that. Like that's essentially, that is what we want to do. We just want people talking about this and not kind of having it as this hidden thing anymore. It's got to be something that we're discussing, that we're talking about.
Massively. And it's such a big job. For me, I feel quite impatient. I feel like there's so much we need to do, so much we need to achieve, so many people who need to know about this. There's still people within Wales, within farming in Wales, who don't actually know what DPJ does. They might recognise the logo, but they don't actually know the Share the Load service, for example. So for me, every time somebody does a fundraiser or a fundraising event, that is a little bit of helping. It's it's that 100%. Little bit of that opportunity to let people know this service is there, this is what it's for, and that's enough, isn't it? So they're doing that just by sticking our logo on their poster. So I'm massively grateful to everybody who's done that for us in the past 10 years, because it's just makes such a massive difference, but there's still so much more to do. And it's really, I think perhaps that's why we get along, is that we are both impatient. We are both wanting it to happen.
Am I?
Well,
I thought one was bad
enough. I'm usually the one pulling the reins back.
It comes to something when you're the one that's saying, now hold on, Emma, and like, wait a minute.
Emma doesn't know the word no at all, so,
Well,
which is a good thing.
I quite often say, like, I'm very stubborn. I think you'll probably agree that you're quite similar. We come from a long line of stubborn people, don't we?
Yes, we
and
do.
I think farmers, as general, are stubborn people, because and actually stubbornness gets you a hell of a long way when you use it in the right direction. I think it's really important.
I think the better word is headstrong.
Headstrong. I like that word. I think stubborn.
Not determination. Like that's
determination.
What
And that resilience, I think, as well is well. That resilience. Look at everything. We've had extreme weather, haven't we? That we've kind of come through over the last few weeks, and that resilience to be able to get through those things that are literally being thrown at us every single day is massive. So 10 years, where are we going to be
in another 10 years?
In another 10 years.
Oh, blimey.
You're not allowed to say you're going to be retired.
You're not allowed
to. I'm going to chain you to me.
In 10 years' time.
What do you want DPJ to achieve?
What do I want us to achieve? I want us to be supporting more farmers and people in the agricultural community across Wales. I want to see those numbers increasing. Month on month, we probably support around between 20 and 30 people new people with counselling. I want to see that consistently being higher, because there will always be a need. People will always have a need for somebody to speak to. And I want to see that happening. I'd like us to see us with lorries in every part of Wales, or the equivalent of lorries in every part of Wales, so people have access to that same level of service. And I'd like to see our volunteer team grown from, I think we're on 88 at the moment. I'd like to see that double at least. Yeah, that's my ambition.
That's good.
And I'd like us to still have that small staff team working behind the scenes on that. I don't want us to be creating any empires.
No.
We can do it with drive, determination and enthusiasm.
Well, look, you're done with what you've already achieved in that.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
It is.
It's incredible.
Yeah. That's where I see us being.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about you? Where do you see us?
I find it really hard. Like I find it really difficult to try and kind of project, but it's a really tricky one for me, because I remember saying at the beginning, I almost want to get to the point where we don't need this. Yeah. Because it would be really nice if everyone had really good mental health and whatever. But I'm not that stupid, and I'm not, I'm simple, but I'm not simple. Ultimately, I just want us to be still there.
Yeah.
Being able to support people. There's no qualms about it. These things cost us a lot of money, and financially, the charity every year, the funds are having, that we have to spend are going up and up and up. And I'll never sort of get over the amount of money things cost. But, to be able to provide an excellent service, like with our counsellors, we have to pay that money. And I think it's hugely important. I want us to be able to continue doing that. And like you said, to be able to reaching as many people as we possibly can. I'd really like it in 10 years' time if you know, like you said that you've grown up with DPJ and things like that. I would really like the kind of like children, like my children's age now in 10 years time, to be like absolute advocates for mental health and talk about things in ways that I couldn't even dreamt of talking about when I was younger, and you know, and have those opportunities to be able to discuss openly about these things without there being that stigma that surrounds it. And I know we've come masses of ways, but there is still a long way to go with regards to that and how people feel talking about it.
Absolutely, because how many people come to us for help when they're quite a far way down the line in quite a dark place. We want people to be coming for help early, and that's what we see with the people who come back to our service. They'll say, oh, I've recognised that I can feel myself dipping again, so I want a little bit of help. And that's what I want those people to be. I want those people we're supporting to be recognising that they're self-managing, but then wanting that bit of support.
And hopefully by putting that in, you know, with specifically with young, you know, not I'm just saying young people, but everybody, but with younger people, they'll grow up with those tools, you know. And I think like I know that I absolutely have it as part of my practice in school, is to be able to kind of make sure that children have got those tools to be able to know that there is support out there, and even if you feel a little bit like that, you know. And and I just find it really hard. It has been the most ridiculous 10 years ever, and I couldn't have ever been able to kind of turn around and say we'd be where we are. I dreamt of it, you know, and I said about the lorry and things like that, but I hope that we can, like you said, I hope that we grow. I hope we continue to kind of, you know, evolve and develop. And for me, like, you know, like you touched on, Annie, about the post-vention service and things like that, you know, those sorts of things that we're reactive, like we are so reactive, and that, God, it makes me proud to know that how incredible, and you know, you two are kind of very much in the crux of that as well, of how incredible you are at picking things up when they happen and getting them done. And I just hope we always stay like that. That for me is a really important value for our organisation, and for us to be able to kind of keep taking that forward.
Richard, where would you like to see us in 10 years' time? Because obviously you've been here since day one.
Yeah, well, it's improving all the time. It's getting bigger, everything.
You want to be driving lorries over the North Wales mountains, don't you? That's what you use it for. Holidays in North Wales.
I wouldn't put anybody through what ever's got through. To be honest, it's horrific. And everybody who has happened to it is the same. It's not nice.
I think for me, it's like, it doesn't ever really go away, does it?
No.
I mean, we still deal with it. Maybe not daily anymore, but certainly kind of every so often we're still dealing with it. But I think the ability now to know that we know how to deal with it, I think that's really important. Yeah. And I know that you felt it when you go places and speak to people when you were, you know, out contracting and working and things. Yeah. The ability to be able to turn to people and say, ring DPJ. Yeah. Because that's what you do, don't you? You wear your jumper every day. You say to people, ring DPJ, they'll sort it out. And he comes home to me and he says, I've spoken to so-and-so, I've told him to ring you. And, you know, it's having that kind of conversations, isn't it? And
it is,
more people who are out there doing that, I think, is really important.
And it's so well known now as well. It's well known.
It's well known that conversation can be had.
Yeah,
because
and that's
I think,
a big
like
thing.
You say, like when you guys started up, that maybe that conversation, like the stigma you said,
it's
really, it's really hard.
I remember. Do you remember going through the county show with me, and everyone was going, how's Emma? No one was speaking to me.
No one was asking
me.
And
it was really frustrating, and it was like nobody wanted to talk about the fact it was suicide. Nobody wanted to discuss, and I was like, no, this is what happened. It was suicide, and we need to talk about this. And
but people didn't know what to say.
They didn't know what to say. They had no idea what to say to me, did they? No. And it was awful. And I remember speaking to the kids, and trust me, the last thing any parent ever wants to do is to have to explain what suicide is. It is absolutely horrendous, especially when your kids are asking how it happened and they want the details, because without the details they make things up in their own heads. It's not what any parent wants to do, ever.
Well, I had to take Marley home one day, didn't you? Because it was too much.
Yeah, and there were kids in school that were telling to her that dad had been in a car accident, and she, it was really hard. So it's like honesty was always the best way of dealing with it. And I just hope that we can kind of all, as a society, become more honest about our feelings to be able to kind of deal with that, really. So.
But I think the lorry is helping a lot as well in the marts and all, because farmers don't want to go to the doctor.
No.
They're that stupid, really. They just want to work and work and work. And then all of a sudden they go and but they'll walk into the lorry, but they won't go and get an appointment if you can get one, type of thing like that. It's been amazing. It's been amazing.
Right then, here we go. First one, final question for everybody. We are gonna of a sort of theme, aren't we, Kate? We're going to ask all of our sort of guests on our things about, we talk about our stress bucket, and we talk about the tap that's on our stress bucket, and about what we do to kind of relieve that pressure and that stress that's on our thing. We have things that fill our bucket up, like me asking Dad to clear the sheds so we can record a podcast.
Or to be on a podcast.
And we have things that release that. So Annie, what is it that releases like your stress in your bucket?
I think the mega thing for me has always been exercise. Always just get out my bike, get some fresh air, get my legs moving, get everything just moving. It just helps me make the wheel keep turning, basically.
Brilliant.
I'm the same. Getting outside. I'm quite well as a student. Like I'm quite locked down to my laptop all the time, and I find I started running the past couple of years, and I find just being outside is just where my mind is at ease. And the same with being, as a farmer, I love being outside. I love being in the grass, whatever. And the same with being in the parlour. A lot of people tell me all the time, "Oh, like you're quite quiet in the parlour," and I'm like, that's my safe space.
Yeah.
Being, 3 or 4 hours away from everyone, just me and the cows, and I can just, me and my thoughts, and it's just, my safe space. Yeah.
Okay.
So I think one of the things that I've discovered recently is how important playing netball is to me. So I try and play once a week, and it's however stressed I might be feeling, having that 40 minutes or whatever it is, just focusing on playing and not falling over and those kinds of things is really quite important to me.
Yeah.
My team is the league is looking like it might fold, so I'm going to have to find somewhere else, because that's really, really going to be vital at keeping me on an even keel.
Yeah.
But then the other thing is my family and spending time with my family, because you don't, Alice as well, because you don't have to, you can just be. You don't have to say anything, you just be there.
Yeah, just exist.
Exist
together.
What relieves yours? I know what fills your stress bucket. I can list that all day.
Start with the ends of the
No.
What is it like relieves your stress bucket?
I like sport and things like that, and I play golf with Tristan a bit, and just me a big mate.
Yeah. Tristan would be lost without you, most definitely. So the golf and the rugby and the football and everything.
But keep active and keep talking to people and
definitely
try and be happy.
Great.
I think.
Well,
what about you, Emma?
Oh, mine changes weekly. I am like one of those people, like I'm into this week, and I'm into this week, and I'm into this week. So yeah, I don't know. I'm sort of, I read before I go to bed every single night. I write in my diary every night before I go to bed. I like to kind of like get my brain, and it's a busy day, and kids and school and work and everything, it's hard. So it's just trying to, I like to kind of, my daily thing is to get it all out on paper and just before I go to bed. And that makes me feel kind of a bit better to kind of finish my day then, really, a little bit. But I do all sorts of random things, and it depends on the time of year and what mood I'm in. And he's like, oh, here she goes, she's off on someone else again now. But
look after your sheep.
Yeah, look after the sheep. Yeah, at the moment we're sheep farming and all sorts, and training for serious bike rides that are coming up, and Machu Picchu that's coming up, and trying to hope my knees hold out. But yeah, it's various things. But no, thank you very much, everybody, and thank you for just being so honest and open. And it's been a really lovely conversation, and we've done the first one, and on to the next.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Well done,
Thank
everybody.
you.